In today's video, we're going to be covering what it means to include if name is equal to main in Python, why we should use it, and the benefits of using it. One of the best ways to demonstrate how it should be used is by creating a module. So here we can type in, let's say, sample module, and in here we need to add some functionality. So the first piece of functionality I'll add is called subscribe, and all it's going to say is print, but only if you love Python. So a simple function that prints a simple line. Inside this module, we also want to test that the function is working. So of course, we will call it right below it. We will right click and we'll tap on run. And you'll get the output, but only if you love Python. So everything's working inside here. We can now use this sample module. We can go to main and we can say import sample module, and we don't need this sidebar anymore. And we can type in sample module.subscribe. Next, let's right click to run this. And what you'll notice is that we'll get the output written twice in the console. And why is that? Why is it that we only called it once, but we got two outputs? And there's actually a very simple explanation for that. And that is that when you import a module, all the code in the module gets executed, which means it executes the function definition, and then it also executes the function being called. So even if we didn't call this down here, it's going to run that print statement no matter what. And that's not something we really want. We just want the user to be able to use it without having these side effects, such as the double print statement. So of course, one way to do this is to remove the subscribe, and it's going to work as a normal module since we're not calling any function in here. But that can become quite annoying. And I also want to mention very quick that it is not a solution to import from sample module the subscribe function, because that will still import or execute all the code inside sample module. Even if we only import subscribe, it's still going to execute all the code in a module. And that's also something else you should keep into account when you're working with Python. And that is that just because you import specific functionality from a module doesn't mean you're saving on resources. You're still importing or executing all the code in the entire module. So this is just to be more concise about what you are importing. It does not only import this section here. It runs the whole script and gives you back only that functionality. So it's still going to run subscribe even if you import from a specific section of the module. But going back to if name is equal to main, this would be the place to use it. And to use it, I usually just type in main in PyCharm because it has this auto completion set up. So I can just tap enter and it's going to check that if dunder name is equal to main, it's going to do the following code. And you'll also get this small play button here, which is very nice and convenient because it also helps us with understanding where we're running the code. Sometimes when I use the shortcut Command plus R, I'll be running a different script. For example, right now, if I use Command plus R, I'm not running the correct script. Right now I'm running main, as you can see all the way down here, but I can't rely on this line of code because I'm not going to scroll to the right each time to see which one I'm running. So many times I make the mistake to run the script and just run the wrong script. Right now, if I make any changes in here, they might show up in main because that's where we're running it, but it is not executing the code inside here. It's actually just executing it in main every time I click on rerun. So having this arrow can make it much more easy to understand where I'm running the script, because all I have to do is tap this arrow once and it's going to run the code inside here. I can even print hello if I want. So if we print hello, it'll print hello and it will also subscribe. So we're running the sample module every time we click on play here. Now if I go back to main and I do Command plus R, you'll see it's still going to run sample module. So it's not really clear which script we're running when we refresh it, and being explicit about which script you're running is much better than being implicit. But going back to if name is equal to main, what does this mean and why are we using it here? Well, all it's saying essentially is that if the script you are currently running is equal to main, then you should use the code inside this if statement. So right now, any script that you run directly by right-clicking will be considered main. It doesn't matter what the name is up here. Main will be main if you run it directly. Sample module will be main if you run it directly. Whichever script you run directly will be considered main. So the code will only execute if you're directly running the script, which means now if we were to import it and use it in main here, it's not going to run this code down here. And we'll just type in hello again. It will not run print hello each time we import the module because we are running it directly in main. As you can see, we run main, it will say, but only if you love Python, without printing hello. If we remove that and unindent this, you'll see that each time we import sample module into main, we're going to get hello printed and we're going to get subscribe duplicated because we called both of these each time we imported it. So it's incredibly important to include if name is equal to main when you are creating modules, because it does save you that trouble of running code that you don't want to run when a user imports it. And it also gives you a great entry point for knowing where to test your code. So if you want to just see what this module does, you can run the script. And you can also use this to show that it works as a standalone script. So maybe a user doesn't even have to import this script to make sure it works. They can just see at the bottom that it says if name is equal to main, which shows that you can run the script directly as it is without having to import it. So maybe they just want to use the functionality of subscribe. All they have to do is go down to if name is equal to main and use that functionality. Personally, I would use this as much as possible. Whenever I make a script, I think it's worth it to use if name is equal to main because it does save me a lot of hassle when it comes to running the wrong script. Personally, I tend to run the wrong script many times, and sometimes these scripts might have functionality that is so similar that you wouldn't even notice you're running the wrong script until you have some weird bug that you just can't get rid of. So even in main.py, I would have if name is equal to main, just for me to be concise with what I'm doing, to make sure that what I want to run is actually being run. And then I explicitly tap on this run main button each time I switch between files, just to ensure that I'm running the correct module. And then you can use the shortcut as many times as you want, but it has just become a habit for me to tap first on the green arrow and then refresh it as many times as I want. And I know a lot of you that come from other programming languages might say, this is incredibly ugly. Why can't it be as simple as other languages that just use main, or as simple as Java that uses public static void main? That is so much easier to read. That's so much simpler. I'm sure you guys are saying that. And I mean, it doesn't take any time to write this. It might look funky at first, but it is Pythonic and it does help maintain backwards compatibility. So that's why we use it. It doesn't take Python any effort to create some sort of main definition that you can insert your code. You can even create it yourself if you want. You can say def main, and inside there you can just put in the code you want, and you can simulate your own main function. That's not a problem for Python. So that's a major complaint I see a lot from Python developers, and that's that they have to use this if name is equal to main syntax, and they find that incredibly ugly. For me, it doesn't matter, it does its job pretty well, and to type it in Python, you just have to type in main, especially in PyCharm with auto code completion, and it's going to insert it for you. It doesn't take longer to read. The second you see if name, it already sounds like main to me, so you can put whatever you want in here. You can say hello, you can say banana, and whatever code you want to put inside there, and you can ensure that it's being run and that it is meant to be run by tapping on that green arrow. Then you can refresh the code each time you need to, and it's going to reflect the changes in the correct file. So those were some of the main reasons to use if name is equal to main in your files, because it does help you ensure that you're running the correct file and that that file was actually meant to be run. Plus, it prevents unnecessary code from being run in other modules. As I showed you earlier, if you have any logic inside your other modules and you don't have if name is equal to main, all that logic will be run because it has to evaluate the entire file to actually be able to create that import. But do let me know in the comment section down below whether you use if name is equal to main or not, or whether you learned something new about it, or if I missed some sort of important feature that is associated with it. But otherwise, with all that being said, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.